Assalamualaikum to our panel, Puan Siti Aisyah and Puan Siti Sarah. My name is Muhammad Sufi Haris bin Kamal and I would like to introduce other members, which is Nick Firdaus bin Nick Lodin and Muhammad Azri Fahmi bin Bahrin. We are from group 5317 and today we want to present about students' perception of factor influencing graduate employability at a higher education institution in Malaysia. Case study in UITM CAWANGAN Negeri Sembilan, Kampus SEREMBAN. Before we jump into the topic, did you know the rates of graduate unemployment are rising? According to the Department of Statistics Malaysia 2020, there have been an increase in the percentage of unemployment rate in Malaysia from 2014 to May 2020. After reaching 5% in April 2020, the unemployment rate increased by 0.3% point to 5.3% in May 2020. From this data, we can see there's an unemployment problem among graduates in Malaysia that need to be addressed. According to the previous studies, the major cause of unemployment among fresh graduates is a lack of employability skills, communication skills, and being too picky about the work while simultaneously seeking a higher salary. In this study, graduates represent job seekers. With a reference to the demand side, employability of graduate relies on their ability to meet the skill set needed by the industry. The study looks at the factors that influence employability from the demand side, with a focus on the role of higher education institution. Therefore, it is open this background at the study aimed at assessing students' perceptions of employability factors at an institution of higher education and investigate how employability factors influence graduate employment.
So we move to the problem segment. For the first one is students have unique skills but do not fulfill the requirement of the labor market. Second is new graduates confront comparable challenges as they attempt to get into the labor market. So for the research objective, first is to identify the student perception of factor affecting graduates' employability at an institution of higher learning. Second one is to determine the influence of factor affecting graduates' employability on employment of graduates. Okay, next, we move to the research question. So, for the first one is, what are the student perception of factor affecting graduates' employability at the institution of higher learning? Second, what are the factors that influence graduates' employability in the employment of graduates?
Okay, so this is our research hypothesis. Okay, next we move to scope and limitation. This study will focus on the factor influencing graduate employability towards student perception in UITM Negeri Sembilan Kampus Seremban, which involve all the students that will graduate. An in-depth questionnaire will be distributed to a Google Forms. There are a few limitations in this study. First, Google Form is not optimized to be used in a tablet or phone in terms of design and responsiveness, so the data will not be precise. Furthermore, since the study was conducted at COVID-19, the researcher will take a long time to complete it because the researcher and the respondent will not meet face-to-face. Okay, next we move to significance of study. This study will help the graduating student in determining their confidence level in their employability. Next, the study will also help the student to enhance their soft skill and their basic knowledge. And last, the prior finding urge students to improve their abilities and works experience in order to aid them in the future.
So, for the research design, this study adapted a descriptive case study design utilizing the quantitative methodology. The respondent information for this survey is only collected once. The information will be gathered through online questionnaire.
Okay, next we move to population and sample. The population of this study are from UITM Seremban students. The sample are selected at random from students as respondent from three different faculty, which are the first one, Faculty of Administrative Science and Policy Study, FSPPP, and the second, Faculty Computer and Mathematical Science, FSKM, and the last one, Faculty of Sports Science and Recreation, FSR.
Next is the sample method. For the sampling technique we use in the study are the convenience and certified sampling. For the sample size, in total of population 5,779 students from UITM Negeri Sembilan was participate in the study. From 5,779 students, this research has required at least 361 students as the respondent. Online software Corasoft was used to determine the sample size. By using the certified sampling technique, the calculation for the number of students selected from each faculty was determined.
Okay, next we move to data collection method. In order to conduct the study, data from student FSPPP, FSKM, and FSR will be collected. Next, data will be collected using online questionnaire on Google Form and will be limited to student UITM Seremban 3. And next, the questionnaire are distributed randomly to studied at UITM Seremban 3.
For the research instrument, this research adopts a questionnaire from Rukuni 2018. The questionnaire is divided into two parts. Part A is for the gathering information of demographic profile of the respondents, including gender, faculty, and semester. For the part B is the dimension to measure level of factor influencing graduate employability. For the reliability, we using a Chromebase Alpha. Next, a pilot study. A pilot study is one that is carried out prior to the actual study being carried out. The study is commonly undertaken to see if the respondent comprehend the question and to see if the questionnaire has any issues. To answer the questionnaires, the study mostly choose students from FSKM, FSR, and FSPPP. The data will then be collected and prepared for analysis using IBM SPSS in order to determine the pilot study's reliability. The actual study begins after the reliability has been determined and accepted. Next, validity and reliability. For this research, this analysis can be used to see whether the item used to measure factors affecting graduate employability and graduate employability constructs were valid and reliable or not. Furthermore, tests of validity and reliability were conducted using Chromebase Alpha and factor analysis respectively. According to Rukuni 2018, for factor analysis, if the item in the questionnaire exceeds 0.4 factor loading, then signifying that the tool used was valid. The Chromebase Alpha coefficient were used to perform a reliability test. According to Urusachi 2015, a basic rule of thumb is that 0.6 until 0.7 denotes acceptable reliability, and 0.8 or greater indicates a very good reliability. For theoretical framework, this research adopts a theoretical framework by Pereira 2009. In this theoretical framework, the main interest is to determine a factor that influencing graduate employability at a higher education institution in Malaysia based on student perceptions. From the theoretical framework, the dependent variable is graduate employability and the independent variable are work attitudes, communication skills, computer skills, and workplace exposure. For the first objective, descriptive analysis is used to describe the examination of data. This analysis is used to analyze the student perception and a factor affecting graduate employability. In this study, score is used to identify students' opinion whether have a positive or negative perception on a factor affecting employability. According to Rukini, if the mean scale is 1 until 2.5, it represents a negative perception on a factor affecting employability, while 2.5 and above indicates positive perception.
Okay, so we move to the correlation analysis. Correlation analysis was used on the objective 2 is to determine the relationship between employability factor and the graduate's employability. So, there are two conditions of the correlation analysis, which are, first, R must be ranged between -1 and 1. For the quartile, the direction and strength of the linear association between the two variables.
Okay, next, second objective, multiple linear regression are used. Multiple linear regression are applied in this study, and backward animation will start with the full model. And next, the model adequacy checking will analyze for each of the model until the final model. Okay, next for model adequacy checking consists of 3 points. The first point, normality assumption. Normality tests are used in the study it will be used the PP plots. And next, homoscedasticity assumption. The homoscedasticity assumption can be checked by using scatter plot of residual against predicted value. The homoscedasticity is fulfilled if the scatter plot of residual plot shows no systematic pattern. And next, multicolority assumption. The tolerance and VIF will be analyzed to check multicolority. If the VIF value is greater than 10 and tolerance value is less than 0.1, then it means multicolority exists.
For the first result and analysis, the researcher tests of a validity and reliability using Cronbach's alpha and factor analysis respectively. It showed all items in the instrument were measured and found to have a value greater than 0.4, indicating that the tool use was valid. Following the validity test, the reliability test was conducted using Cronbach alpha coefficients. Since all items scored higher than 0.6, therefore all variables meet the reliability. We proceed with the descriptive analysis, where descriptive analysis is a part of the result and analysis, which is the researcher wants to analyze the respondents of the demographic data and to analyze the student perception and factors affecting graduate employability. As we can see for the gender, based on the table and figure of the pie chart, 66.2%, which is 239 students of the total 361 students were female, while 33.8%, which is 122 students were male. For the next descriptive analysis, based on the bar chart of a semester, this research got the most participants from students in semester 6, which is 225 students. For the lowest is student in semester 4, which is only 27 students. Next, we proceed with the first objective for the results and analysis, which is the researcher wants to know the students' perception of factors affecting graduate employability at an institution of higher learning. Table 4.2 shows that all the variables indicating factors affecting graduate employability have a positive influence on graduate employability. This was determined by the fact that the mean value of a work attitude, which is 3.89, computer skill, which is 3.61, communication skill, which is 3.87, and work environment exposure, which is 3.59, are all higher than the means 2.5. The finding shows that graduate employability as measured by work attitudes, computer skill, communication skill, and work environment exposure is considered good.
So we move to the correlation analysis. As you can see that the table shows all factors affecting graduates' employability, which are work attitude, communication skill, computer skill, and workplace exposure, are positively related to the overall graduate employability. This evidenced by positive p-value of all factors ranging from 0.3 to 0.6, as well as the p-value is below than 0.05. So, the computer skill indicate a weak positive relationship with the graduate employability. Furthermore, work attitude and workplace exposure are moderate positive relationship with the graduate's employability. And communication skills indicate that a strong positive relationship with the graduate employability.
Okay, next, for the analysis multiple linear regression, model 2 will be chosen since all the variables are significant and all the assumptions have been met. Based on table 4.11, the regression model is significant since the p-value is 0.000, which is less than alpha 0.05. Next, based on table 4.12, about 44.5% of total variation of graduate employability were explained by the independent, which are computer skill, communication skill, and workplace exposure, and other 55.5% were explained by other factors. Based on table 4.13, all variables are significant since the p-value is less than 0.05. Furthermore, it shows that computer skill, communication skill, and workplace exposure are significant. These three variables are the factors that affecting graduate employability. Okay, next model adequacy checking for model 2. Figure 4.3 show a normal PP plot since the plot always followed and approached the diagonal line. As a result, it can be concluded that the residuals are normally distributed. Next, based on figure 4.4, homoscedasticity assumption is met, since the scatter plot of residual has no clear pattern. Next, based on table 4.10, there is no multicolority exists because the tolerance value is larger than 0.1 and the VIS value is less than 10. Therefore, all the assumptions have been satisfied and all the variables are significant in this model. Model 2 is the final model in this study. It can be concluded that there are three factors that affecting graduate employability on employment of graduate, which are computer skill, communication skill, and workplace exposure, while on the one variable which work attitude is not affected since the variable is not significant.
So we move to the conclusion and recommendation. As we stated, we use descriptive analysis for objective 1 and for objective 2 we use correlation and multiplicative regression. Based on the result analysis for the first objective, it can be concluded that students have positive perception of factors influencing graduate employability, which are work attitude, computer skill, communication skill, and workplace exposure. Moreover, for the second analysis, it can be concluded there is a positive relationship between graduates' employability factors such as computer skill, communication skill, and workplace exposure and graduates' employability. The findings show that out of 4 variables, 3 of them significant to the dependent variable, which are workplace exposure with 0.01, computer skill with 0.00, and communication skill with 0.00. Since the significant value is less than alpha 0.05. So, the researcher recommend that future studies should include additional factor in the data because the R square was too small. The researcher can do further research on student part-time employment to investigate whether additional factor impacts student perception of graduates' employability. Aside from that, future study might focus on different population to pick as respondent rather than university students.